How is your clacker?
I've been referred.
Have you? Has someone seen you?
Well, I went to the GP.
Has somebody seen you bending over?
Yeah.
I went to the GP and I've been referred.
It's alive! Let's show this prehistoric bitch how we do things downtown.
Welcome to Empire of Geek, and joining me on today's show is that bloody foreigner, Dr. Florian.
I thought you were talking about Paul then.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We've got the thinking woman's posh crumpet, Paul.
Just call me Adam from now on.
Yes.
Adam. I want to be known as Adam.
You should start wearing a cape. So, are you having a good week? I haven't asked you, are you having a good week
Yes.
so far?
Yes.
And it's just the beginning of it, but
Yes.
good stuff. And what about... No, it's been shit.
Yeah.
And Paul, what about you?
Good. Yeah, it's going alright. Yeah. It's only the beginning of the week though, isn't it? It's Monday.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been an alright sort of a day. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it. It's
But
been a
things
bit
are all
nicer weather, hasn't it? I woke up this morning, it was nice and bright outside.
Turned out nice, didn't it?
Yeah, lots of possibilities.
Yes.
And now that the man that everyone has been asking me about all week, how are you, Raoul?
I thought you just asked me that, or you're editing that bit out.
I may or may not. It depends on
So
how it
what
goes.
do you mean people have been asking? Who's been asking?
Listeners of the show have been messaging
How
out.
many listeners?
We've had
You're
so far.
obsessed with it.
I'm quite jealous, you know. You've got a bit of a fan base already.
We've had about 400 different people who've commented in asking how your dirt box is.
It just goes to show, doesn't it?
They're worried.
What about?
Just about your sphincter health. That's all.
Well, I've been referred, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
It's on the
No, that's
again.
not. That's not. Watch that particular space.
Anyway,
Very crowded.
shall we get on with some film news first of all? Now, this isn't straight away going to be... What the hell's that music?
Oh, that's.
Oh, Raoul.
It's all right. I can ignore it.
So we
It's not your proctologist, is it?
No, it's one of my investors. So
Are they ringing because they've heard news that you're unwell?
Are they investing in your bottom?
Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Apparently they're interested in applying the Hadron kind of super collider to it. If you sort of fire molecules at Rob's arse and manage to get one through,
Yeah.
then they reckon that it could prove that there are other, parallel universes as well, hidden up Rob's arse. Apparently time changes around Rob's arse as well, that's how tight it
It's
is.
that added component they need to actually split the atom, isn't it? That last... that last missing gap.
Just as well they're not
In the
splitting
show.
the
It's
Part
not
of the
about
pun.
splitting. Fusion's what you want because fusion produces helium.
It would be amazing if actually that was the only missing link they needed. With
Rob's
your
arse.
backside. So I can actually create energy forever. You can be famous, really
The Hadron
famous.
Collider is not about creating energy, it's about looking at fundamental particles.
Yeah.
Anyhow, about those film news.
Yeah,
Oh, shut up.
this is why we've got a physicist in the room.
I've got this mate who's been making graphene in his kitchen.
What?
He's been making graphene in his
Oh,
kitchen.
Is
you
that
mean the
legal?
Nobel laureate who actually discovered it by accident? Like that guy. Oh, have you got... Did
No,
you say you've got a mate?
I've got a mate who's
How,
trying.
how does he know it's graphene? Because you have to verify that it is with an electron microscope.
Well, he's convinced.
He's convinced it's got... that puts it
He's
into
convinced he
perspective.
can make these sheets and stick them to his windscreen and like wire it up to something and get energy out of it.
Right.
Being convinced is all you need, though.
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
no, that
he
always
watched
works.
a YouTube video.
It's not getting better.
It
It's not...
was a TED talk.
You do
physicist.
realise that scientists, when they say, give your sources, YouTube does not
I
feature...
watched it on YouTube.
It was a TED talk. It was a TED talk. Some boffin
Right.
was on about how you can power. It was about the grid of the future being no grid and the generator of the future being no generator because or power station word because
The electricity of the future
Yeah.
is no electricity.
yeah because these graphene sheets apparently they can extract the electrons out of light and you can use them
So light has photons.
sunlight and stuff. Yeah.
photons. Solar cells do that, but they don't.
Florian,
extract-
don't ruin
yes.
Rob's
Anyway,
story
okay,
with your
yes.
facts and science.
But no, this is a theory anyway. So in theory, you can turn any window into a solar panel
Yeah, you can, but I mean that's been on for a while.
using this graphene stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
So-
what I wanted to talk about was the Oscars just recently, and I happened to read on the internet when I was researching stuff, because I do a tiny amount of research for this show, that quite a few people have said that the Oscars are well known for snubbing genre type movies such as science fiction, horror, and fantasy, and that drama tends to be the thing which gets the nod from the Oscars.
Somebody said that the Oscar judging panel is populated by white 60-year-old men, and therefore you've got a particular bias basically inbuilt into that. Probably true.
I think they've said for the 3 times in the last 4 Oscars years that they've done this, that the big winning films have been about the entertainment business. So you've got stuff like what was the black and white film that came out?
Oh, The Artist.
Yeah.
The Artist and stuff like that. That has won big awards. But they're saying that particularly in foreign films as well. I know that particular film was French, wasn't it? But it's very hard. Foreign films, sci-fi, that hardly any sci-fi films even get a nomination. And there's been tons of very well-known and pretty kind of high-caliber sci-fi films that no one's ever been given an Oscar for. Like, I can only think of like horror films as well. And would you class Silence of the Lambs as a horror film, or would you see it as a psychological
Thriller.
I'd say it was boring.
It's an interesting one. There's elements of it. It's probably subgenre.
Do you not like Silence of the Lambs?
I don't think
Well-
boring is a subgenre.
Yeah.
It's just a bit whatever.
I don't know. There's some classic lines in there like, I can smell your...
Yeah.
I can smell your...
Can I say
You
that?
edit that bit
My
out,
mum and
please.
dad listen to this.
Just edit that out, please.
I can smell you. You can't. Maybe that's what she said. I don't know. Maybe,
It's a German accent.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you reckon about that? Do you think that... Is it because
Well,
genre films are shit, basically? Are drama films better?
somebody said that if you make a film about a disability, you've virtually got it in the bag. So I can't remember. There was an
My
actor
Left
who's,
Foot.
The best actor was Eddie Redmayne for his portrayal of Stephen Hawking, which of course is brilliant because it's science for once, But he's a scientist. Best actress was Julianne Moore for portraying somebody with Alzheimer's, so early onset Alzheimer's. So yeah, it's not a disability, but you know what I mean, sort of disease disability or that kind of thing. So it's somebody said, I can't remember who it was, but if they only would write a role for me where it was a fairly dickish comment, I suppose, but I believe that's not too far off the truth. There's lots of films where somebody's got their fight against adversity, that kind of thing.
Well, I suppose it's something which has got universal interest, isn't it? Because people can relate to things like that, can't they? That sort of loss and pain. They're universal things. Maybe it's a case of universal qualities in films that people are going to relate to. Therefore, they're a lot more binding for everybody. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
So do you think if to make a genre film, a sci-fi film that's going to win a serious amount of awards, would it be something like
We need a disability in it.
retard lesbian space pirates?
I'm sure that would get.
Because I reckon we could get some
nomination, yeah.
Kickstarter backing for that.
Well, I think just people can, and I guess it's also for the masses things which are they're going to be universal, universal qualities, but also things that people can easily relate to. Emotional is like 12 Years a Slave. Everyone can relate to that, can't they?
What, the slave
What?
farmers? You probably owned them, didn't you?
I agreed to that
Now,
without
come
actually
on.
thinking about that.
They like them.
No, but, I mean it's stuff about
Wait
history
one
that
cotton
you-
picking minute.
history that you already know. It's look at Lincoln.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise ending in that,
Yeah.
or
But I said that is
It was
that's one of the
surprising
few
we watched it. We
films
talked about it
where
last week, yeah.
I was thinking, please buy some tickets to go and see the friggin' theatre. Just go, you stovepipe-hatted dick. Boring twat.
yeah.
Yeah, and Daniel Day-Lewis got an Oscar for that, didn't he?
And he always gets an Oscar. It's basically they can't not give him an Oscar. I
Because
think it's
Danny Day-Lewis,
in the contract of Hollywood.
He was in a really.
He plays a role every 6 years or something, or every 10 years or whatever.
Well, he did There Will Be Blood. He was in that as well, wasn't he? Which was I thought was a really
Gangs of New
unusual.
York he was in.
Gangs of
Yeah,
New
it was
York,
good.
yeah.
Gangs of
But he was actually good in Gangs of New York.
Yeah. Did you see that? There Will
Wasn't
Be Blood?
Leonardo DiCaprio in that?
Yeah, he was.
Yes, he was.
So-
There Will Be Blood is an unusual movie about an oil tycoon. Have you seen that at all?
I've heard about it. I've
Yeah.
not seen it.
It's a very unusual movie. Very unusual movie. That's an unusual movie because that's not a kind of a movie that I would say had universal interest to people.
Gravity, though. Would you count that as science fiction?
I would class that as a science film more than anything. Where's the fiction?
Well, it was
Where's
fiction
the plot?
because of all
Where's
the
the
death and
entertainment?
stuff. You know, I enjoyed it. I thought Gravity was brilliant.
Well, Interstellar won the visual effects award. That's probably one of the few categories
but
where
if
you do get your sci-fi
The
stuff.
very word effects. Anything you can spell in two letters.
You see,
that's
I-
not really the Oscars that people are gunning for.
I thought that Interstellar was just what's his face Nolan trying to be all existential, hippie, weirdy, crappy, doodah, dally wally, whatever. And
Christopher Nolan is a very, very clever man. Have you seen Memento?
yes,
Yeah.
Because everyone goes on about... What was the other-
I've seen it, but I can't remember it. Sorry.
So I've tattooed. I love that
obviously-
film.
I do apologise for that joke.
Leave the room now.
Yes.
I don't. It's all the stuff to do with bending of space and time. After a while, it just gets a bit boring.
I don't think it's done well. I think he has done stuff well, though.
But he does seem to have carved out a niche of a series of films which involve bending of space and time.
Not all of them.
Of recent,
Batman.
okay,
All three of them. Memento. Time, I suppose, in respect to that Guy Pearce can only remember a certain amount of things.
But the actor.
The actor, yeah. He's terrible at remembering
it started
lines.
off because,
That's why they sacked him on Neighbours, wasn't it?
the dreaming one, I forgot what it's called.
Inception.
Inception, yeah.
Well done, you've picked a film.
I just found Inception. I liked it, but then I saw it again and I just thought,
So when you're saying that all his films, are you saying that you've only ever watched two of his films and they were, one film twice, and that you were judging the whole body of his work on that? Is that what you're saying, Raoul?
no. I've seen Memento. I've seen all the Batman films that he did. I've Interstellar and the dreamy one.
The dreamy one.
And I don't know. Inception, yeah. It's all right, but I don't know.
I enjoyed Inception. I liked the idea. But I think Memento for me is probably one of his cleverest films.
Memento is probably, I think, the best one he's done. But all the others are a bit, whatever.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was quite good. Thank you very much. So yeah, the Oscars. So science fiction, we're never going to get a best film or a best actor from a sci-fi film. Is that what you? Would you agree?
I think it's one of the hardest disciplines to get like best director or best.
Has there not been like Spielberg's had Oscar? Has he won an Oscar, Spielberg?
Yeah, for Schindler's List and stuff like that.
But not for any of his science
I
fiction.
think E.T. and
it's
stuff got
probably-
nominated, but did it win?
I think
Yeah.
And is E.T. science fiction?
Just think about Gravity. Gravity is an interesting one, but it has a lot of things which appeal to people as a mass audience, like loss. It's got those sort of fundamental things like fear, trying to get to, from one place to another,
I thought it built
getting
the
back
tension.
home.
It built the tension up.
They
really
are
well.
they're universal. Yeah, it did. Yeah, but I mean, they're the universal things, qualities in the movie. The rest of it is just window dressing, if you ask me. Out in space, you could use the same qualities and be, on planet Earth.
I think sci-fi turns a certain
And I think it's
large
difficult
group of
sci-fi.
people off, though.
Yeah.
Because if I was,
Well, it's a more
Yeah, the
more
judges of the
niche
Oscars
thing, isn't
for
it?
one
yeah,
thing.
particularly the
Turns
miserable
idiots
gits.
off.
Well, not just idiots. I think in general, not always, but in general, most girls aren't huge fans of sci-fi films. So that
I think that's a generalisation.
it is, but it's true a lot.
But the girls don't get
But it's true.
Girls,
It's a stereotype.
hang on.
Based on
hang
true
on.
facts.
Girls don't make the decision about the Oscars because most of the
Oh, sorry, I'm not
judges-
on about the Oscars. I was just
Yeah,
about
but
going to watch a
we're
film. Yeah.
talking about what might get nominated. So there are loads of girls. The girls tend to be less vocal about stuff. I think.
Was Star Trek? Was the new Star Trek movie 2010? Was that not nominated for something?
Well, probably effects.
Yeah, it'd be visual
or
effects.
makeup or something.
Yeah, you get it for that, but I want them at the best film. Or...
Well, some of the best science fiction writing was done obviously by Asimov and Clarke, and you've got some relatively good films. One shit film.
Is Clark dead now?
Yes, yeah, he died
this morning.
This morning.
Florian killed him.
Not quite. But Asimov and Clarke actually had this contract basically that they would never write anything nasty about each other's books. So we always ask you, what did you think of the latest Clarke book? What did you think of the latest Asimov book? And they always agreed that whether they'd read them or not, they would always say, yeah, brilliant book. But you know, those two wrote some fantastic science fiction. But you will not the films, I think, into any other category than makeup or effects or something like that, because people think that science fiction literature is rubbish.
Yeah,
and they will make this a priori completely unwarranted, because they probably don't read it. It's like me and ballet.
You and ballet can see the tights.
Yeah, you do look good in a leotard, though.
No, not performing, watching it or judging it. But I mean, I wouldn't. I simply wouldn't. I appreciate that there are people who like the ballet, and that's it.
Didn't geostationary satellites come about
because of ballet?
No.
Arthur C.
The
Clarke
theory had been around for a while, but it was Arthur C. Clarke who first popularised it, and
well, he actually wrote a scientific article about it, and there were articles written against that saying there's no way that you can ever get a rocket into space because the fuel doesn't exist to do it. And of course, with the fuels that existed at the time, it took a while for hydrogen to really become, available en masse. And then you need hundreds of tons of it for a space shuttle, anyway. Hydrazine I don't think you would have got anything in orbit with that. So this is it's like this old stuff about
Florian science time.
Star Trek got best makeup in 2010.
See,
best
makeup,
makeup,
visuals,
best
never
makeup,
best
yeah.
film.
No, I was going to say is when you
I wasn't
you know,
being unsocial, I was just
no,
saying.
that's all right. The thing about going in a car quicker than 30 miles an hour would blow your head off or something like that.
well, didn't they have a big? I remember years and years, this was in the 20s or 30s something. They strapped some bloke to a.
Pardon?
They strapped some fella, some
Oh, right.
bloke to a chair. And catapulted him at 60 miles an hour just to see what would happen to him, and he survived. They were all amazed.
Did you dream that last night?
Did,
No, you can Google it. It's
Google
one
it.
of the early
And he said
experiments.
Clearly,
he said
Google
this
it.
was okay. He sort of gave his body for scientific experiment. Said, "Yes, I'm quite happy
Well,
with this."
he was like some hard as nails, like fighter test pilot type thing.
Oh.
Wasn't it?
And
Early-
why would they?
Chuck Norris.
Surely he would have to land in water or something. Why would they strap a chair to him?
No,
No,
he was
I
sat
want
on a
to
chair.
see.
And it was like on a train track. He was completely exposed.
Oh, I thought you meant they fired him.
Oh no, it wasn't
I've
quite
got a
like
question
that.
for
They
it.
just accelerated. They just
Well, what
Ask
speed do you
Florian.
fall? 'Cause you reach your premium
Terminal
speed,
velocity.
Terminal velocity when you fall out of an
Yeah.
aircraft, right?
Yeah.
What speed is that?
Depends on the shape you're making. So it's
Okay.
if you're going
Like that.
streamlined,
If you're going,
are you
20
trying
miles
to
an hour like
reduce if you're trying to reduce your terminal velocity, you would try and spread yourself out as far as possible.
Yeah. But let's say you were doing that, though. You're trying
yeah.
to stop yourself from imminent death.
I think I'm offhand. I'm taking a wild guess here, so somebody can Google that. But I think it's something like 90 meters per second or something is possibly.
90 meters per second.
And then if you go head first, it's 300 meters per second, something like that.
Right.
So
Okay.
it depends a great deal on the shape. I know that.
Can you not tell me miles per hour?
No. No.
What if you're
I
like
just want to know because I want to know.
Yeah.
At what speed if you're being fired?
It's
at 60
about
miles an hour.
120 miles per hour for a human body.
So at 120 miles an hour, if you hit
Oh,
water,
that's quite a bit faster than I thought, isn't it?
56 meters per second.
Oh no, it's okay. Yeah.
So if
So
you-
I wasn't a million miles off.
if
You
you
did
hit
good.
water at 120 miles an hour,
Yeah.
right,
Which is
it
lucky
makes
because we're
sense
going to
me.
throw you off the roof later on tonight.
It's like hitting concrete, isn't it?
Well, that's what they say. I still would take my chances in the water.
So what would happen if you went at 60 miles an hour and hit water? Imagine it. I mean, it used to pretty bloody
Well,
hurt when I used to
why
jump
he's-
in
That's why you're
and do a
supposed to
bomb
go
at the swimming pool.
You're supposed
So
to go
what happens if you hit it at 60 miles an hour being
feet first,
catapulted?
because you don't give the water enough time to get out of the way, so the particles hit you back.
But if you
I've
warn
never
it,
done that. I mean,
if you shout it, get away.
it really stung when you used to jump in like that and
Yeah.
it falls. It used to really hurt your tummy.
Yeah.
When you jump off
Really?
boats and stuff, when people are trying to survive, I remember reading a book. It was How to Survive Terrible Incidents, and you meant to put your feet together and you basically cup your balls,
Yeah.
because if you don't, the upthrust of water can do you a real mischief.
Well, it's an
it can
interesting
drive them back inside you as well.
That's an interesting one. If you actually fall off of a boat and you fall off very close to it, and the boat falling down at the same time as you, sinking, actually, the backdraft can actually pull you back, can't it? Yeah, and suck you down. We can also suck you out. Suck you off. No, suck you off. That's not it. You know what I mean?
I had a story about it was someone who was in. It was a youngish. I think it was a young girl. She was in this swimming pool on holiday, and she had her back to one of the filter things that comes out, and it literally sucked her. Began to turn her inside out.
Oh.
Her dad came over and thought she'd messed herself, and she was literally kind of pink socking, which is the technical term for it.
Oh dear.
Which is where your intestine is
Yeah,
sucked
thanks
out.
very much for that. Yeah.
So that's what Rob will be doing
I
next
feel
week.
ill now.
Can you delete that bit as well?
It was in 1820, by the way, they did the test.
What?
To test the man to see how if he could survive or not.
Yeah.
1820.
All right.
Yeah.
One of the
180
theories,
plenty.
I think one of the theories was that if the carriage moved at 20, 30 miles an hour, the air would get pushed back, so you'd
Yeah.
actually suffocate if you were at the front of the carriage.
Ah,
So the inertia of the air, people weren't happy with.
Anyway, we'll move on to the next particular
Yes,
story.
Science reality, not science fiction.
Do you remember a few weeks ago we were speaking about the new Ghostbusters film, which is going to have ladies in it?
Paul won't remember unless
Yeah.
he's listened to the podcast.
He doesn't listen to them.
I have it, but
However,
there have been-
his good lady does though, and she enjoys the podcasts.
She wants to come tonight.
She's messaged me about it. Do you want to come along and join in?
Yeah.
What's
Now,
this?
I heard quite a lot about this anyway, because Dan Aykroyd has been saying for some time, yeah, we're thinking about doing it, yeah, we're thinking about getting people together, but he's going to write it. He thought it would be very wrong of him to be in it. Were you talking along those sort of
Well, no,
lines?
Dan Aykroyd wanted to, for years, he's been on about doing a Ghostbusters 3, and they spoke about they'd pass the torch on in it, so it'd be him, and there would be Harold
the
Ramis.
ghosts of the.
It was about he was going to have them as younger people, wasn't it?
Yeah, there'd be younger people, and they would
Yeah.
pass it on to them. And
Yeah.
one of the big stumbling blocks was Bill Murray. I mentioned this in a previous podcast
Yeah,
that
didn't want to do it.
Bill Murray sees no point, I don't think, in going back to doing Ghostbusters. So originally he went, I wouldn't do it. And then he said, I'd do it, but I'd have to die in the first few minutes. And then he said I'd be a ghost in it. So that was some of the talk. And then when Harold Ramis died,
Coming back to what I was talking about last week.
well, Bill Murray doesn't need to go back and do Ghostbusters. What has Dan Aykroyd really done since Blues Brothers 2000, when they literally dug up the corpse of John Belushi and then pissed all over him?
He's sort of living off the back of really amazing first movies. They're all contrived. That's all I
Ghostbusters
was
2 is
trying
a
to
good
say
film.
last week. I wasn't trying to say anything else.
That was
They
no.
were just contrived.
Again, what you're saying now though is a bit of a straw man, because what you actually said
Why?
last week was, I hate all franchise movies. I hate when
You did.
that is what you said.
That's
Right,
And
that
then I
was a massive
pointed out,
generalisation.
and as I pointed out, you've told me that you are a massive fan of the Carry On films,
Yeah, but they're
and then you
classic.
said you like James Bond films, and then you proceeded to slag
Yeah,
off
but-
the best kind of period, which was clearly Roger Moore's films.
No, it wasn't.
They're the best films.
No, it wasn't.
All the real iconic stuff comes from Roger. All the best iconic stuff.
I think the point I
comes
was
from
trying to
Roger
make,
Moore.
just getting back to that about James Bond again. is
We're not
that
going to continue
Roger Moore-
over every
Roger
week
Moore,
this
hang on a
argument.
minute.
Just admit it.
I'm
You
admitting
do
it.
like
I'm
some
admitting nothing.
franchises.
There's an argument. Yeah, okay, I like some franchises. But I'll just get Roger Moore, right, was a cartoon character, James Bond. There was nothing to him.
Nope.
It was completely superficial.
He was amazing.
He wasn't.
He was hilarious.
Sean Connery.
He made them
Daniel
fun
Craig,
to
I
watch.
say he's actually taken it to
Well, what about Daniel Craig? Roger Moore was the kind of the knowing wink to the audience. Roger Moore. I love
That's
it.
what I mean. He became a cartoon character.
That made
It
James
wasn't
Bond
a
what it
serious
was.
James Bond.
Keeping the British end up. Nobody does it better. I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
Surely you've always wanted to
parody.
shoot people, shoot Russians while you're skiing, and then parachute with a big Union Jack.
That's what I mean. It
Did you-
took it to an extreme. That's why I can't take him serious.
You
I
know
think James
Bob
Bond's a hard
Holness. You know Bob Holness was James Bond as well.
He was the radio.
the first
James Bond.
ever James Bond.
No, he wasn't the first ever
Wasn't
James
he?
Bond.
I
He was
thought-
the first British one on radio. James Bond appeared, an American guy appeared as James Bond before him.
You like this, Rob? He went to my school.
Bob Holness did.
He did, yeah.
What, Eton?
Can't tell you.
No, he survived. That's a very poor joke. So anyway,
Yes.
so we were talking about Ghostbusters, and we said that obviously Harold Ramis died, and then Paul Feig announced that there's going to be this all-female cast of Ghostbusters in the new film, and they're going to be a reboot. Basically, the old stuff no longer exists in that
official,
universe. That's official. They're doing that.
It's gonna be
Melissa
glorious.
McCarthy's in it and all that.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of people, slating it. The idea. Dan Aykroyd was kind of okay with it, and he has come out now and said, if this film does really good, then that could kind of revitalise the franchise, and they could still come back and do a third
Said the F
Ghostbusters.
word.
What's that franchise?
Yeah.
You said you like some franchises.
I'm a bit dubious. The first movie was awesome. The second movie didn't do very well. Didn't do as well.
So, there's 2 points to this. So Dan Aykroyd says that it might revitalise it, and they could do another Ghostbusters 3, which I don't ever think will happen. But when we were talking about before, I mentioned we were also talking about the reboot of the Fantastic Four and some of the highly racist things that had been written about it.
Sorry, I just fact checked it. Holmes was the first James Bond. The American was the first
TV film one.
Yeah, the first TV James
Yeah, well, we
Bond.
don't count people on radio.
Did you check out where I went to school?
But the radio Bond, that's.
Just
Yeah,
do the
okay.
voiceover.
Yeah, the American Bond was the first TV Bond, and that was 1 year before the radio Bond. So
We checked which school he went to.
What minute? It was 1 year before the radio Bond. So then he was the first Bond, wasn't he? If it was 1 year before the radio.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So can we just say you've stopped me to correct me, and in fact you haven't corrected me. You've agreed that I was correct.
Well, no, because you said radio, and he wasn't the first radio guy. He was the first
No, I
TV.
didn't. I never said. I said an American guy played him. He was the first guy to do it. And do you know how I know that? Because I knew that. That was because I knew it.
Well,
That's how.
That's just.
I don't need my little Apple laptop. Anyway, shall we not sit here in silence with you reading stuff, Rob?
Yes, go.
Raoul.
Yes.
So we spoke about the Fantastic Four reboot, and there was a lot of kind of backlash to that reboot, the fact that Johnny Storm's a black man now. And then I read out a comment where someone said, I'll be okay with this when they remake Shaft with a white guy in it. Guess what they're doing a reboot of?
No.
Only Shaft.
With the white guy.
No, well, I don't think they will,
They
but
couldn't make it with a white guy.
How would you make it with a
It was
white
a
guy?
black,
announced
it was a black exploitation movie, wasn't it?
Neville Shaft it's going to be.
Is it?
It's about a hard-working...
White exploitation. I can't even say it. White exploitation.
No, I don't think they'll have a white guy
You
in it.
can't have a
Why
white
is it?
shaft.
But I think after we... it's yours, Tom.
No, you can't.
Especially with the dirt you're up to, Mr. Raoul.
Yeah. I just realised what I said.
Yeah. I just got this image of you kind of shimmy along the street with your arse scrapes and then your girlfriend next to you doing the same shimmy for a whole different reason. Anyway, but I just thought it's slightly ironic that
It's like the Blues
after
Brothers.
we spoke about that they are going to they've not made any announcement. So in theory, it could be White Shaft.
But it occurred to me that they sort of tried their hand at a black Bond. We knew we were talking about that as well.
Well, that's-
And Triple
yeah.
X is essentially a sort of a black Bond. And
Oh yes, the second one, yeah. Because
Yeah.
Vin Diesel was in the first one, then it was Ice Cube, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then they killed Vin Diesel at the beginning of the...
It was almost like a car saying, "I'll see you later."
Yeah.
He wouldn't be in this film. They should have actually had someone come on and go, "Hello, I'm the director of this movie. Vin Diesel wouldn't be in it. That's why."
Well, they
Yeah.
made Felix black in the
Felix the cat. He was always black.
No,
Black cartoon.
in the most recent Bond films.
Felix Leiter, yeah.
Yeah, and that works.
It does, yeah.
Of course
but-
it works. It would work as a black Bond.
They'd already
People-
messed around with the character of Felix, though, not changing the colour of him. But in the books, I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure Rob will fact check this. Felix loses his legs from a shark attack.
Yes.
In
But then he
in Live and
regrows
Let
it.
Die.
Yeah, but then he
Not in-
regrows it.
Not in. It's in. What is the next one? There's License to Kill. It's in it's Timothy Dalton's License to Kill where Felix gets attacked on his wedding night. I'm pretty sure in the novelisations it's Live and Let Die that happens.
Mm.
You can look it up,
Mhm.
but I'm sure it is. Look
Moving
at him. Look at him.
swiftly on.
Ian Livingstone wrote a lot of the early Bonds in the Caribbean, didn't he? When he was
Ian
actually-
Livingstone.
Ian
Fleming.
Flemingstone. I'm sorry, Flemingstone.
Did he write Shitty Bang Bang as well?
Ian Fle-
Shitty bang.
I mean, Ian-
Is that
Ian
how your anal
Ian
problem
Fleming,
began?
Ba-dum-ching.
Shitty bang bang.
Oh, dear.
Yes, he did write.
Sorry, I meant Ian
He
Fleming.
also wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. You are correct on that. Yeah, he had his kind of house there. It was called Goldeneye.
Yeah.
It's
He was
where they
in
got
the
the name
Secret
Goldeneye.
Service, wasn't he, during the war or something?
He should have
Yeah,
used that
could
for
be.
some sort of Bond. Oh, they did.
Oh, they did.
Yeah.
Too late. Well, the next thing I want to talk about is and I've got some pictures to show you for this, which won't work well for the listeners, but we've mentioned a few times there's a film coming out soon by Neil Blomkamp called Chappie, and he made films like District 9?
District
9.
Yeah.
And he also recently did, I've forgotten the bloody name of it, the one about where you've got the people who've got all the best kind of healthcare and then everyone else lives on the planet.
Elysium.
Elysium. So he's bringing this Chappie out and it looks really cool. He's been, since January, been putting all his pictures on his Instagram of his own artwork, I think, that he's done, which is all to do with the film Alien. For example, so I'll show you now.
Is he doing a remake of Alien?
Not a remake of Alien. He put these pictures up.
He's put his own artwork up
On an Instagram.
which is influenced
by Alien.
What,
Incidentally,
like almost like Geiger's work, is it? Or?
well, he put a picture of one of Geiger's one up the other day with an announcement. But he's put these pictures up, and I'll show you one here.
Yeah.
Now, on Chappie, he happens to be working with Sigourney Weaver, who obviously played Ellen Ripley.
Yeah.
So let me show you one of them when I can get it bloody well opening up.
We're now all moving to the iPad.
So here's some of his artwork that he put up.
Well, the stuff he's painted himself.
Yeah.
Bloody hell, that's good.
So that's obviously Ellen Ripley there in the picture of Ripley, and then behind her you've got Hicks as well. So there's another
He's painted
picture.
that then?
Yeah, this has all been digitally done. I think you're probably getting the photographs and some designs for like a different type of alien with only one. This is the face hugger that come out. He's done a new design of them. So he's been putting all these pictures up recently. Here's another one. This shows Ripley with. This is the space jockey from the first Alien, and also from the recent film that they're in. This is her. This is Ellen Ripley wearing it. So he's putting all these pictures up recently. He's put some other pictures of kind of scenery, and this is one of the big ships, which is this is on Earth. This is
Wow.
And well, anyway, he's been doing this since January, and then the other day he put up a picture of one of Geiger's aliens, and he announced the fact that so it's official. My next film is Alien. He's doing Alien 5, and a lot of people have said that people thought the franchise was kind of dead because Alien Resurrection and stuff like that kind of sucked major balls. But everyone universally seems to be excited about him being behind that because obviously his films kick ass, don't they?
Always.
His attention to kind of detail.
It's just interesting. I wonder whether or not he's going to ask. This guy died, didn't he, this year? Or was it last year?
I think it was.
Died.
Yes, I think it was. Yeah,
recently. Yeah. So I suppose in a way you can't really ask him to do any artwork. I suppose he's continuing that legacy. The work is when you think about Alien, you think about
he died May last year.
you think about Geiger, don't you? You think about all that sort of artwork.
Part of me wishes.
It has to be similar, I suppose. It has to have that feel about it, doesn't it?
Part of me wishes a way we could just scrub, just keep Alien, the first two, and just scrub the rest out.
Well, I think that they could be doing that with this in that because Hicks was meant to die in the after Aliens, he was meant to have died in some escape pod or something, and he didn't go with them. But they either said that they will either completely kind of redo it and forget about Alien Resurrection and all that, or
Please do, 'cause
they'll
were shocking.
find a way. Because there was a game brought out recently, which was called Alien Isolation, I think, which it received really good reviews.
Oh yeah, it is very good, and it's got the 1970s computer sort of interface. It's really the spirit of the 1970s sort of knobs and dials and old style not liquid crystal displays in the sense that we know them now, but of the old sort of digital watch type. And yeah, it was fantastic.
It's in a way, it's an interesting idea that again, isn't it? That a game can be very, very successful, off the back of a franchise. Which, what should you say? The first two movies were good, but the rest of them weren't very good. So get rid of the rest of the movies.
Went downhill after Alien.
Went downhill.
They
went down. Franchises that went downhill. You say?
No, it wasn't so much.
Anyway.
It wasn't so much what they went
But
downhill.
again-
It just got messy. It just got.
Can I say, if you want to franchise and you say you like Carry On Columbus is shit.
Agreed.
I'd have to
Name a
disagree on
good-
that.
Dick that up, you Kyber.
But what I was up the Kyber. What I was going to say was that it's interesting where a game like that can come in because computer games are a lot more tactile,
to
aren't
me-
they? And a lot more.
Computer games are sort of my thing. So with Alien Isolation, it was a good game. It wouldn't have got the attention if it hadn't been an Alien game. That's absolutely true. but the gameplay itself wouldn't have stood for itself, because there's a beautiful game out called Destiny, which looks absolutely fantastic, but the gameplay is not very good. Yeah. So people are saying it's shallow and it's blah blah blah.
Most expensive game ever made.
Alien Isolation. You get a one alien on board, which is terrorizing the rest of the crew, and you've got various missions to perform, and it actually learns from your behaviour. So if you do certain things too many times, it goes randomly around the ship, so you never really know where it is.
Is it first person?
It is first person, yeah.
Like shooter.
Sort of, because if you shoot, then the alien hears you and zeroes in on your position. Essentially,
do you have puzzles that you have to?
Yeah, you have missions that you have to do, and you can get like a flamethrower, and you can sort of drive it off for a little while, and that kind of thing, and you can hide in sort of lockers.
It's a sandboxy type game, is it?
Yeah,
you go various different.
Yeah, but it's a bit more directed, but it doesn't ever feel like completely closed off, you know. So as opposed to 1886, The Order 1886, which I've heard about. I've not played it myself, but I've heard about.
I've seen a lot of the gameplay. It looks good.
It looks. It's the most beautiful game apparently that for that people have seen for the PS4 anyway. But apparently you're railroaded into these missions, and you've got missions where it says like identify these guards or whatever, and then there's like a big fat arrow almost on them to say you should look at that one and you should look at that one, and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think Alien Isolation wouldn't have been as successful as it has been, which I don't know how successful it was commercially, but it certainly got a lot of critical acclaim if it hadn't had the gameplay. And in some ways, the spirit, if it hadn't channeled the spirit of the original film, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's where computer games can actually build on movies, though, isn't it? Because you're in control. You're interacting with things. You're actually engaged with the world, and you choose where you go to. And I think that's where a game can benefit off the back of a franchise like that. Because of those reasons.
Alien
Boom, boom.
Alien Resurrection, it was shit.
Yeah,
have you just Googled that? Were they shit? Yes, they were. Google says so.
Yeah, there's no game about Alien Resurrection.
I've been patching my code.
Do franchises gradually
Is that
squeeze
some
their
sort of
life out of movies?
Patching my
No,
code.
If you are leaking on that chair, I just tell you now, Roll.
I'm not leaking. I'm modifying.
And get you a towel to put under you if you
It's
want.
all
A
right.
towel for Raoul.
Yeah.
It's all right. I've been fiddling with that.
Oh, you dirty bastard! Put it away.
Yeah, honestly,
It's JavaScript.
it's all swollen.
Yeah. Oh.
It's inflated and swollen.
It's Meteor.js actually.
Oh, that is. It shouldn't be that colour. It should not be that colour.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it sounds a little bit like I want to labour the point too much. It sounds a little bit like. Have you played the game Slender?
No, I've seen it though.
But because that is a very kind of simple game.
Yeah.
But the idea that you don't know where the Slender Man's going to be,
Yeah.
and you walk around finding these objects and all that.
Yeah.
That is a genuinely. It's more scary, I think, than most horror films I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Slender, that sounds really cool. I've not
It's based on Slender Man.
The last game I bought was Skyrim, and I thought it was really good. But again, the gameplay is a little bit hit and miss if you ask me. But I mean, the game was brilliant. But
I think there's, like with films, there's actually a trend towards making things so accessible that the very accessibility to somebody who's got more than 3 brain cells to rub together becomes boring.
Yeah.
And there's no way of actually, in a film, you're sort of trapped. In a game, you can say, I'm going to try it on hard difficulty or impossible or hardcore, whatever the harder levels are called. But in a film, you can only really watch the film.
Because it's linear. I mean, that's what I was going to say. Is I think there's a big drive these days for games to be. To be filmic, and they have filming elements in them.
But you got a lot of people from Hollywood working on them.
Absolutely. They take 4 or 5
and that
years.
always
to
makes
sometimes.
things better, as
It
we know.
does.
And that's off the back of, I keep asking myself the question, and I know this is all about sci-fi, this programme, where are we going to be? We said this 10 years ago. Where are games going to be in another 10 years' time? Where are they going to be in another 10
Have
years'
you seen
time
they've
from now?
announced the sequel to Skyrim?
No.
It's based on the life of Raoul. It's called Split Ring.
Skyrim.
And it's-
I always call it Scrim.
Good.
Thanks for that. Thanks for that little bit of input. The next one I'll move on to is that's the film news for this week. Now, normally we'd talk about new TV stuff. The only thing I will mention is, we watched that I Survived the Zombie Apocalypse, which is on BBC.
Yes, which was
Which is
shocking.
a bit shocking.
Yeah.
I got a message the day after from my sister, but she went to Edinburgh and she met up with one of her friends who's involved with a lot of the theatre and stuff around there and the fringe and
Does
all
your
that.
sister listen to this, though?
Yes, she does, yeah.
Oh.
And she, ages ago, told me she went on this kind of event, and what it was you went in and you basically got led around this place and there was people dressed up as zombies. And the same company that did that, and she says it was amazing, because the next night, she met some of them when they were out drinking, and she got invited to join in, and they made her all up as a zombie. They're the same group who do this TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Do you said the zombies look pretty cool?
Yeah.
It's because the group who do these live events you can actually go to.
I thought they were well acted. I guess the only problem I've got is that they would. It was just window dressing again. I said last week, in a program like that, you needed to have zombies that were going to do something, and they don't do anything, do they?
Even a fighter.
They're just there.
Not like kill them in a literal sense, like we said last week. You need to be able to just,
Yeah, do something. They look scary.
When you go to the event,
scary, yeah.
you get led through all these rooms. It's as if there's been a massive outbreak, and there'll be somewhere where they got them chained up, and this guy just comes running at you, and the chain stops him.
Yeah.
And there's rooms where they've done experiments and things like that. But she said it was brilliant. So
I mean,
wouldn't it be good to go and do one of those?
what if they were to arm them up with paintball guns? That wouldn't kill them, but...
If a paintball hits you in the eye, have you not watched
Yeah.
Biker Grove?
Well, yeah, but...
PJ, no! A blind man, like! Grove's on fire, man!
But they can,
There's a pony in the grove!
They can wear goggles.
Yes,
No, not in
point.
Liverpool.
Yeah.
Not in,
They can
Liverpool.
wear goggles, surely. I mean...
No, but
All of them
I-
died
I
with
can tell you-
goggles on.
It wouldn't be very authentic, would it? They're dead already. in theory.
You don't want to go down that route, because I did live role playing for my sins many, many years ago, and I dressed up as a monster for the occasional quest. And people forget that you're human inside, and it was honestly just little rubber masks. But they would really pummel you, because they'd get into this frenzy of it's like pull your punches, people. But they just forget, so I don't think they're going to get the
No,
insurance for that.
I went LARPing in St Helens when I was at
LARPing?
university.
Live
LARPing.
role playing.
Oh,
And
right.
we went along, and I actually I'd fenced for about a while. So I'm okay with the sort of
Stolen goods, or
wrecked car radios, stolen children, puppies, things like that.
yeah.
So, and I did Sabre. Now, live action roleplay, if you've ever fenced Sabre, you have a massive advantage, because when you get hit with the sword, you can't. Say if someone hits you on the arm,
Yeah.
you stop using the arm until they wrap a bandage or whatever around it. One of the basic moves you learn in Sabre is you bring your swords together and you just flick your blade down their blade. And if they don't have a guard, even they have a guard, you just carry on and you hit them in
Did
the
you
arm.
fight with a
Yeah.
saber then?
No, I had a big kind of. It was a carbon fibre rod with all kind of padding-y stuff on it. So that's what I used. So we went along and
I did a quarter. I had a quarter staff like that.
like Donatello.
I had a foil.
No, this was I fenced sabre and foil. That's what I did.
But this is a... Oh, I know, in the roleplay thing.
No,
right, yeah.
we went along. And the first half of the day you're a good guy. Half the day you're one of the bad. You're monstering and whatever. And we got there first of all, and there was a bit where there's a guy called Sir Duncan who clearly he was one of the bosses of it. He had all of his own gear, proper armour. He'd made himself a shield, and we were at the top of this hill. And then we see some people with the zombie masks on walking out, and he goes, "Got some creatures down there." He says, "Form a line." So I thought, yeah, form a line. So we formed a line on the hill, and then he said, "Let's charge them." And I was thinking, "Not funny, Sir Duncan, but surely we're on the high ground. It would be a folly to give away our advantage." He had none of it, so we all ran down there. Now, bear in mind that most of the people doing this were probably 40 or 50-year-old accountants, so running was not in their job description. So the line, instead of keeping a wonderful straight line like in Braveheart, the line quickly developed into sort of dropping back all over the place. We eventually met the enemy line, and Sir Duncan had brought his shield up. Now, Sir Duncan was it looked good. However, he'd fixed it, and it wasn't really it wasn't strapped to his arm. He had a little strap that went over, he had a little kind of thing that went over it, a loop he put it through. The shield spun back and smacked him square in the teeth, and had to go and sit in the back of his Cavalier for the rest of the day. Remember his teeth being So we've just lost our leader. Where's the leader gone?
Yeah.
He's sat in the boot of his car.
The zombies don't have any,
In
right?
the booth. Blimey.
He opened the back and he was sat in the boot of it with his.
Yeah.
Well,
with his
when I was about
keys.
12, we did a little bit of that. I had some friends who were interested in that. We decided we were going to do something like that. What did you call it again?
LARPing.
LARPing. Yeah, we were going to go out and about, and we had these characters we do. And I was really excited about it.
When you see went out about, you've got to do it with other people who know. You can't just go out and attack people.
Well, no, it was a group of us. We were
That's
on
mugging.
Locations. We were really quite interested. I'd never done anything
Was
like
this
before.
was this not like
I got,
fox hunting?
well, I'll tell you. Similar.
Because
It's an orc, little red furry orc.
Well, not quite. When you hear the story and find out what happened, but I got really excited.
Oh,
I'd made this outfit, I got really into it. I was making my outfit.
high
I was gonna be a
heels,
wizard.
wig.
And I got excited. It was over in this village called Harby, and I made myself a sword out of Lego.
That would be absolutely devastating if you hit someone in a corner of a Lego sword.
And when I got there, it was a little bit of an anticlimax because we got there, got round to this friend of mine called James's house, and I got all my gear and thought, I've made a sword out of Lego. We got there, he was like, it's a sword made out of Lego. It's not very good, is it? And he got in a huff and didn't want to go. So it was a waste of time. I made all this outfit, and then we didn't go anywhere. I don't think it was just my Lego sword that he took umbrage at. It was massive anti-climax.
Lego sword.
Yeah,
That's
sorry, look
fucking
forward to it.
terrible.
I had a plastic sword when I was a kid. And my dad bent it because I bashed the bishop with it.
Oh my word!
We're back to the usual.
No, the bishop. I hit the bishop with my sword. And my dad was none too impressed. So
Did you hit his
Bent it.
bishop with the sword?
Did you slap your granny with it, Raoul?
no, the bishop.
Anyway, when are we going to get on
Bishop.
to Adam Adamant?
Yes.
Well, actually, we're on to that now. So, normally we talk about TV, so I spoke about the zombies and stuff. I want to do a thing called Best of British. We won't do it all the time, but there's loads of great shows. Like, I think ITC were a company, but one of the ITV type companies that used to make a lot of films. And so I thought I'd look at some old films. And when I get onto the convention news, there's a guy who's at one of the conventions coming up who had been on Adam Adamant. And I'd heard of Adam Adamant, but I'd never watched it. And so, first of all, I went on the internet and I listened to the theme tune, which... Florian, can you key up? Let's see if it plays.
As a knight in white armour.
This woman came second in the Eurovision Song Contest for Britain.
Cold
Sounds like a
as a shot
bomb trap.
from a gun.
That's it, yeah.
If you should look for a man full of danger, to love is a stranger. This man is the one.
We don't need to listen to it all unless you...
Okay, yeah.
That gives us the idea.
Thank God. Okay.
I'm getting that for my ringtone for my phone. I love that. So I watched an episode and I decided I'd show you chaps it.
Yes.
So we'll get your feelings on it. I'll tell you a bit about it as well. Because it's the people who worked on it, like I mentioned, some of the episodes of it, they made something like 27 or 29 episodes, but there's only 17 of them left. The BBC had a policy of wiping a lot of stuff, which is why a load of Doctor Who was lost in the 70s.
Well, you'd try and reuse the tapes, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and so a lot of this was lost. And they found stuff because other people had copies of it that they kept. But
Yeah.
we'll start with you, because I think this is probably quite close to your heart, Paul, because you think you are Adam Adamant.
I think it's the part of my character that is unfulfilled. I think that's, if I in another world had the opportunity to be this person, I would be this person. He's deep down inside of me, and he's been brought up through me watching.
Well, you're
Adam
in a
Adamant
David
for the first time.
Portillo.
He is, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
on the
when I think of it, I thought it
1966 this was
I mean,
made, yeah.
you know I love 60s stuff anyway, not just Carol movies, but I'm a great fan of The Prisoner as well. So, I like 60s
We
stuff.
might
And
watch
it's
an
got a
episode
great-
of The Prisoner one week.
I'd love to, it'd be awesome. It's classically overacted that sort of 1960s way, and it's very classically 1960s in terms of how it feels and how it sounds. But yeah, I like it. It's got another quality to it as well. There's another underlying quality. You have to watch it, obviously, watchers, listeners. But it's got a lot of unusual qualities to it. He's basically an Edwardian gentleman, isn't he?
Yes.
Who has been frozen in time by some
The
mysterious
Face.
bad guy.
His name's The Face.
So it's quite interesting itself because he's wearing a gimp mask. This bad guy, isn't he? I was quite shocked by that. I didn't know gimp masks like that existed in the 1960s. I thought it was a purely modern
like
thing.
a waking death or something.
Well, he says to him, he says, "I'll give you a waking death,"
Yeah.
which you've been a
But
very
he was
naughty
very much
boy.
asleep when he got revived, so...
It's just a really. I think what I like about it is it's just a really unusual concept, isn't it? Somebody coming from.
What actually the biggest disappointment to me was the fact that he was literally frozen for thousands of days.
Days,
Not,
yeah.
No, it's
Well,
like
no, I think-
64 years. It's
I
not
think,
like, it's
I
not
think
a great
there's
amount.
enough of a contrast though between 1902 and 1960 something.
Yeah, six.
I think the point was that they weren't expecting to dig him up.
Yeah.
They were destroying an old building, and then you find Adam Adamant under there.
I like the sequence where he's in hospital and he's just coming around and he discovers that he's in this weird and wonderful place, and how he reacts to people. It's quite funny, isn't it? Yeah. Well, he says to one of some old woman who's in the hospital bed, "Don't worry, my people will come and."
He gives him a massive knife, doesn't he?
Yeah. He gives her a bloody saw. Obviously it's a saw from some sort of doctor's kit.
A bone saw.
removing limbs. But yeah, when he's walking around and he ends up in Piccadilly Circus.
Yeah.
And there's lots of classic 1960s psychedelia, echoes on voices, isn't there?
Yeah.
And weird pans of cameras looking up at
Basically the
1966
finest special
Piccadilly
effects
Circus.
of 1966.
Yeah. So it's very classic. I think you'll find it's very classic. You should go and watch it. Very classic 1960s psychedelia about it, hasn't it? But it's got some underlying odd quality to it, which I've never seen before.
Yeah, I found this. It made me want to watch more.
Yeah.
And I tell you this, it gets better.
It's punchy, isn't it? It's punchy. What was it, about 45 minutes, was it, the episode?
Yeah, about 4 or 5
But
minutes.
it didn't feel like it. It was very punchy, very fast paced. Yeah. Very quirky, just odd. The bad guys are just really,
An old woman.
but unexpected, aren't they?
And unusual as well for an episode made in the 60s to be that long.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah. I don't know how long they used to be, about 30 minutes maybe?
I thought you were going to say very unusual to show a woman in a position of power in the 1960s, even if she was a kingpin.
Even
But-
the opening sequence where there's these characters climbing up the side of a building and they've come to kill the king, haven't
the
they?
foreign devils.
It's Edward II, yeah.
But because it seemed quite,
Get away from me, you foreign devil.
it seems on the surface
It was a
quite
bearded
light-
foreign man with
Yeah.
with ill
Dubious-
intent.
Dubious accent.
but it seems quite
That's
light-hearted.
the German with the dubious accent.
And a beard as well.
And the beard as well, yeah. It was me.
I'm going to give you an option. You can either be killed by the king's executioner,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
or
jump
you can
off this
jump
balcony.
off the balcony.
And then he jumps off the balcony, and the next line is brilliant. It's like, he was a man of honour. Right.
It seemed like quite light-hearted on the surface, but he threw him off the bloody balcony, didn't he?
Yeah.
He picked one guy up and spun him round and threw him off.
Do you know what? He managed to...
Maybe it was just a caterer late with the canapes. That's a bit harsh. It's like, you shall not come in here with your canapes.
But I bought Ferrero Rocher.
He threw two... In the pilot episode, he throws two different people off buildings, didn't he?
Yeah,
Yes.
he killed the old woman, didn't he? Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
and the funny thing is that as you watch the next episodes, the next one, which they say is in order, but I think they're out of order when I've watched them, is he gets to Blackpool for the next one. So he finds a message hidden in a stick of rock. And he
Fantastic.
goes to Blackpool, and he ends up fighting a man on Blackpool Tower. And as soon as he went to the top of the tower, I thought, he's going to throw someone off the tower. He does seem to quite regularly throw people off buildings in it as well.
It's the only
Is that,
honourable way to die, gentlemen.
is the message in the stick of rock like the message you find in like the crackers in Chinese restaurants? As it's like, get me out of... the Christmas cracker joke. I'm trapped in a Christmas cracker factory, get me out of it.
It's... Without wanting to spoilers, although it was in 1966, so you should have bloody seen it by now. He, after the first episode, he seemingly gets... His house has been knocked down from back in the day, from 1902. He gets a new house, an exact replica built on top of a multi-storey car park.
See, what's all that about?
And he also gets
Why would you
himself
do that?
a Mini Cooper, which has got AA 1000 as its...
I don't know what he says, but I'm guessing he would say something along the lines of, "What is this strange and wonderful, yet beautiful, mechanical beast?" Something like that.
Well, no, he can drive straight away.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there's probably a whole episode that you haven't seen, a lost episode where Adamant
Adamant.
learns how to drive. Which that's just him doing kangaroo jumps for the first half.
I like the added benefit of the fact that he wears a wig and has false eyebrows that you didn't really need to have. I just think that's quite
And when the
interesting.
show finished, the makeup lady took the eyebrows and she actually framed them and gave them to him.
Brilliant.
She put something like, here lies
Why
beneath
did
these
you-
eyebrows.
it's
Adamant.
not
Why
Adamant.
did you give him fake eyebrows?
Well, he didn't need them. They even said, you don't need fake eyebrows. And I think that Gerald Harper, who plays Adamant, was like, put them on anyway. Because they're good fake eyebrows. I didn't realise until I'd done a bit of research into it that it's... that they
I'd
were
have
fake.
rather had the ring from The Lord of the Rings, you know. That's a proper
yeah.
movie prop that you wouldn't want to get. The eyebrows, I'm not sure.
So,
There we are.
Raoul, what did you make of it?
I really enjoyed it. I can't really add anything more than what Paul said because I agree with him for once.
It looks a bit like, Duke of Wellington. I imagine if the Duke of Wellington was actually alive and moving around. He's got those very chiselled chins, hasn't he?
What, a zombie Duke of Wellington? First of all, we'd be scared, and
The newly undead.
and Florian would be sitting there
He has-
disapproving.
He has,
Oh,
he has facial features. Even, I mean, like I said, very 1960s. You don't see many people today walking around. He's
You've got
a
an
60s
old face, haven't you?
He's got a classic 1960s face. I've not seen anybody like that. You
What,
tend
with
to see
chiseled
them.
face?
Well, even the women as well. They all have 1960s features.
Big
you think
chins, big chins and that.
Is it
Well, you
possible?
know
Is it
why?
possible? Is it possible that we
You
could
know
have
what?
genetically changed
No.
over the last
No,
45
it's
years?
diet. It's diet because don't forget that's post-war Britain, right? Lots of those people were being raised on rations. They weren't polluted with all the shit and crap that we polluted ourselves with.
No, just TNT and you
Yeah.
know other chemicals, phosphorus.
He's got very sharp.
You've been
angles.
scienced again.
No, I haven't.
It's the nose and the chin.
There's all sorts of evidence to suggest that the reason why people are living, older people now are living considerably longer than
Yeah, because they
than
haven't
before.
got. They could retire at 55, and we're gonna have to work until we're 68.
Yeah, that's with your union hat on. No, there are actual genetic advantages in that you've not knackered your
No, there's-
mitochondria.
genetics don't work that.
I want somebody to.
Stress will probably do.
I want one of our viewers one of our listeners to actually email in and confirm that people don't look like they do in 1960s TV programs.
Oh, for one thing,
They just
nowadays
don't seem to exist anymore.
Nowadays they've got colour. Colour, of course, wasn't invented until the 60s. So yeah.
Yes,
no,
everyone
no,
lived
no,
in black and
I
white.
had
So.
colour before,
Yeah.
then, it was just too expensive.
Yeah.
You'll see what I mean if you watch it.
Yeah, well, the Royal Wedding,
That was in colour.
that was in colour, yeah.
I think they coloured it in afterwards. That was
With
cheap.
crayons, yeah.
But it was developed in the 1920s.
They got some flunkies in
Yeah,
to do it.
there were some colour ones. Yeah.
So, what I wanted to talk about was I did a bit of research into.
I wasn't entirely
Into Adam
serious about the
Adamant.
colour, by the way, just in case somebody thinks that.
He's a terrible scientist. He just makes it up.
It's a Calvin and Hobbes thing. Anyway, go on.
The show was actually invented. It gets criticised a lot as a rip-off of the Avengers.
Right.
The idea of this kind of Steed type, kind of posh guy.
But he's both in the same at the same time, isn't he? Steve.
That's why.
Oh, sorry.
He's panache.
Which was Patrick McNee, who played Steed. And also then you had the likes of Emma Peel and Tara King, this kind of swinging 60s woman. So people said, and in fact the guy who came up with the idea was a guy called Sidney Newman. And Sidney Newman created the Avengers. Sidney Newman also created another TV show called Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
And it was produced by Verity Lambert. And Verity Lambert was the first producer of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
So it's got a lot of connections with that. And I think next week I was thinking of talking about how Doctor Who was nearly saved. You know, Doctor Who went off. I ended up researching a bit on that. And basically, the show didn't come back and went off air because of three gobshites, who we'll talk about in another. There's three key dickheads who wanted to get rid of it. But I wanted to talk a bit more about
But
this.
in a way, in a perverse way, by its absence then has allowed it to come back.
All the more strong.
It couldn't have come
All
back
the
if it had
stronger.
been running throughout. That's very true.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and what we have
That's
now.
true. Well,
Yes.
the same argument was I imagine is given to like slaves and all that. Was if we've not enslaved you, we couldn't have freed you. Don't you feel all rosy and nice inside?
It is slightly
Thank you,
different.
sir. Thank
So
you, Governor.
Significantly different, actually. You know, it's a TV program versus you know the oppression of what Paul's ancestors did.
Incidentally
So I
enough,
bring my ancestors into this.
the two main characters, Juliet Harmer, who played Georgina Jones,
They were
and Gerald
harmless.
Harper, who played Adam Adamant, but this show was seen as a rip-off of the Avengers, and they only did 2 series of this because the BBC and particularly Verity Lambert felt that it didn't succeed in what they wanted to do. So she saw it as a failure compared to stuff like Doctor Who and things like that. it turned out that Diana Rigg, who played Emma Peel in The Avengers, her very first episode of The Avengers, she ended up fighting an evil schoolmistress played by Juliet Harmer, who played Georgina Jones in this. And in fact, Gerald Harper, who played Adam Adamant, was in quite a few episodes of The Avengers as well, so there was a lot of crossover. Now, when you saw Gerald Harper fighting and stuff, he was really short-sighted. And so he would have his glasses on until they started to film. And I've read some reports from people who were stuntmen and things on the set and kind of bad guys of the week, saying because he had a sword cane which he used, and they were saying that how dangerous it was to actually do scenes with him because, and in fact, in a few of the scenes, if you look at him, his eyes seem almost otherworldly and unfocused because he cannot see. A bloody thing.
I clocked that actually. At
Did
one
they not
point,
think
his eyes are like that, aren't they?
Did they not think they could have used something that looked like a cane sword but wasn't actually made from sharp metal?
No, it wouldn't have been the same. Would it?
This is what I mean. I mean, some of the things that he was doing in that first episode, like crawling across and sort of throwing his body around,
Putting
and
his
then
head
using
through the window was a classic.
throwing his teeth onto the gas.
Although
and then whacking
it is sugar glass, real glass does behave quite differently. You wouldn't want to put your hand or anything else through it, so you cut yourself really, really badly.
And that's
So
the
don't
big
ever
mistake,
do
though.
that.
That's stuff on the roof. That was insane.
There was no time. There was no time for a stunt guy, was there, to do any of the the orchestration of the moves? He was doing it all himself, wasn't he?
But the thing on the roof, the jump edit, the jump cut, where he's about 8 feet away from the wall, and all of a sudden he's there, and
He's a quick mover.
Is she actually on the edge of that building, looking down onto the street? Because you can see, it looks to me as if she was actually put on the side of that building, and the cars and the pavement down below are actually really there. I don't think superimposed.
Yeah, she probably was, because the cost of superimposing all that kind of stuff would not have been, and also the way it looked quite seamless, that wouldn't have been possible any other way.
Yeah, cutting corners.
Now, in some of the later episodes, which we obviously haven't got time to show you and all that, there's one where he goes to Tokyo and they have all these Japanese actors and actresses, but then they go to this geisha type house, and the head geisha or geisha lady, they obviously didn't want to entrust it to an actual Japanese person, so they get an English woman to dress up and speak with her, and there's some amazing things. So, Mr. Adamant, come in. I'm putting you in the willow room. It was hilarious, and there's a bit at the end of that one, and again, this is when I was watching and I thought I love this, where basically they're blackmailing this guy in the British ministry, and they send him over there to do a deal to give them he wants troop manoeuvres of the British troops, and they want to swap them, and obviously Adam Adamant balls it all up and he saves the day. And there's a bit where he says to Miss Jones, Georgina Jones, who's followed him, he says, go to the British embassy and tell them what's going on. And she runs off. And right at the end of it, when he's kind of won, she turns up again. And he says to her, have you been to the embassy then, Miss Jones? And she says, no, it's a Sunday. They only work half day. It was shut. And he turns to the camera and goes, no wonder we lost the Empire. And then just walks off.
Oh dear.
Brilliant.
So it's amazing. So that's my recommendation. Go onto YouTube or go onto Amazon, and you can buy the box set of it. And I think I've been watching it loads because it's just it's a fun show. I think it's different to the Avengers as well. I think it deserves to be recognised in its own right.
It's different qualities, yeah. It's a bit tongue in cheek, isn't it, and plastic, but at the same time, there's underlying oddities about it.
So I just want to quickly speak then about my comic of the week. I was going to originally do that as a separate show on my own, but I found it's rubbish when I'm just talking on my own with just the dog here. There's no one to feedback.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, it got a bit late then. I've recorded it 4 times.
Yeah.
Did it go out?
No, I never put it out because I recorded it 4 times and I just didn't like the vibe of it. I like it when there's some... And normally on the comic book stuff, not many people say stuff because it's just me rabbiting on.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that I can have some feedback.
You're an audience.
Well, yeah, I just think it's good with an audience here. So my comic of the week, it's more of an artist because he's done loads of stuff, is by a guy called John Allison, who must be pretty successful and well known because he's done loads of stuff and his style is amazing. His website is called www.scaryGoRound, all one word, .com. He's looking it up now. So Florence is getting up. This is it. That's the number one choice one. He does some really nice stuff. I love the look of it. And what I like about it is his use of line is really simple, but he still manages to capture it. And the best thing about his work is the characters. He draws really well. I like the simple kind of line work and the simple colour palettes he uses. But his characters, when you read quite a bit of it, are amazing. The interactions between them. Now, on his website, there's a book he's just come out now called Giant Days, where he's written it and he's got another artist actually illustrating it, Lisa Treeman. But again, I've seen reviews of it, and the reviews all say the same thing, that the writing, the actual relationships between the characters are really well done. So that's the best. His art's amazing. I think I love his artwork. It's simple, but I think the simplicity of it would be easy to miss how technically sound I think he is at drawing. If you kind of skip back, Florian, and see some other ones. Now,
just looking at that, it looks quite a little bit retro again. It isn't quite 60s. It's got a bit of a 60s edge to it.
Some of his front covers are, and not so much his, not quite so much his strips. Now he's done about 3 different kind of webcomics. One's called Scary Go Round, there's one called Bobbins, and there's another one which is called Bobbins, Scary Go Round, and Bad Machinery. And what he does is that they tend to all be set in a fictional West Yorkshire village of Tackleford. And across all these different webcomics, he has the same characters turning up again, but they'll have aged sometimes. So you can actually meet the different characters again later on. And like, he killed off his main character, which got him a lot of kind of flack at one point. And then he brought her back as well. So, and there's a lot of fantasy things involved with it. So it's just a really nice comic. I think he does a really good job.
It looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
It does, yeah.
So I'm really pleased with that, which gets me on to the conventions. There's 3 conventions I want to talk about. Convention number 1, and this is the convention that got me into Adam Adamant. It's called Valiant 2015. It's on Saturday the 7th of March at the Workstation in Sheffield. If you want to find out more, you can go to www.phantom, with an F, films, all one word, .co.uk, /events/Valiant 2015. And it's proper old school Doctor Who. You can have Katie Manning, who played Jo Grant, who was with the 3rd Doctor and the 4th Doctor. And she famously, if you don't Google this, Florian, she got naked with a Dalek. She posed in the buff. So if you ever look her up on the internet, you're bound to find a picture of her in the nude with the Dalek.
Paul, I was told not to Google it. Don't look at me like that.
Get your hands off that keyboard. Sarah Sutton, who played Nyssa, who was with the 4th Doctor and then the 5th Doctor. She played the daughter of Treemass, who turned out to eventually be taken over by the Master. Incidentally enough, Treemass is an anagram of Master. So just by chance.
It's very, very clever, all this stuff.
It was. Yeah. Richard Franklin, who played Captain Yates, Richard Franklin was also in an episode of Adam Adamant. And he only got into acting because I think he was in a pub and Telly Savalas walked in, saw him and said, "Who loves you, baby? You want to get into acting? I'm in a film called The Dirty Dozen. Try out for it." So he tried for the film, didn't get in, but it kind of won him over, and that's what got him into acting. And Captain Yates was second in command to the kind of brigadier. He did turn on unit in some of the adventures, but he came back later on. And Terrance Dicks, which is not the best name, but Terrance Dicks wrote all of the Jon Pertwee era episodes, and he wrote quite a few of the ones with Tom Baker as well, stuff like the Mind of Morbius and all that. He was known as Uncle Tewie because he had a lisp, but he was a massive influence, and he introduced a lot of the key memorable things about Doctor Who. Now, Jon Pertwee's Doctor Who, for anyone who's in the know, is clearly inspired by a certain Edwardian adventurer frozen in time, isn't he? Adam Adamant
that's true.
is basically the 3rd Doctor. The way he moves, the fact his kung fu and his fighting style, his dandy way of dressing.
Yeah.
So I think there was a definite crossover there. The next one I want to talk about is Sci-Fi Scarborough, the Spa Complex Scarborough, March the 14th to the 15th. Website is www.scifiscarborough.co.uk. There'll be a load of famous people there. Femi Taylor. Do you remember Femi Taylor? She got eaten by a Rancor in Return of the Jedi.
Oh.
She was Ula, the dancing girl at Jabba's palace.
Oh, right.
I don't know what she's done much since then. There's Dave Prowse, who obviously the Cornish Darth Vader.
You hate him.
I don't hate him. I just think when you read stuff about him, he sounds like a bit of a dick.
But we'll do this story.
Although Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew, he had a right go at one of my friends. The same friend went to go and see Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew, and he was walking in the queue to see him, and then he was so overcome by the fact that Chewbacca was sat at a table, not in fancy dress, but the man,
Yeah.
that he stopped and just stood there, and the line kept on moving. Then my friend kind of got his wits together, moved ahead, and then he got shouted at by Chewbacca. He's like, "Rah!" and got sent to the back of the line. And he says he was upset, but he still queued up to meet him to get his thing signed.
His thing.
His penis.
All right.
The posters
I was
were
worried
ruined by
then.
Prowse. Did
Yeah.
you hear that story?
The poster.
You'll have to listen to a few podcasts back to.
Oh right, yeah,
To
okay.
hear
Yeah, oh
the
yes,
story.
there could be yes, and he signed it all over the middle bit. Yeah.
Right, the number one thing I think about Sci-Fi Scarborough is not so much the celebs who are going to be there, but it's the 50th year this year of Thunderbirds being out. So they're doing lots of stuff to do about Jerry Anderson. And there's going to be a display there of this super group of Jerry Anderson collectors called Eagle 6. So there's going to be costumes from Space 1999, there's going to be Space Precinct and masks, there's going to be puppets from stuff like Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds, Terrorhawks, there's going to be sets, and there'll be all that stuff. And I've seen some pictures of it and it looks amazing.
Terrorhawks.
Incidentally, the same thing, Jerry Anderson's son is going to be there as well, Jamie Anderson, and he's doing a new show that he did a Kickstarter for, which is called Firestorm, which is going to be filmed in exactly the same way.
Super Mario Nation.
Yeah, but he's calling his new one, it's something like Ultra Marination. He's developed a slightly newer version of it, and he's got all the puppets made and everything. Now, later on this year, in July, there's a thing called Andercon, which is in Leicester, which is basically a massive Jerry Anderson convention, which we'll talk about another time.
Isn't there a new program? A new
Yes, new Thunderbirds.
new Thunderbirds? Yes. Thank you.
I've seen some adverts for it. I'm
Yeah.
excited, but it's not puppets.
Yeah.
And then finally,
Do puppets get you excited?
oh yes,
Oh yeah. All
Sooty.
those strings.
What you saying, Sooty? Oh, you're very naughty. And finally,
You know why I can't talk, don't you?
MCon.
You know why I can't talk, don't you?
You what? Sorry,
He's got a hand up his. Thanks.
I'll sorry.
You wouldn't be able to.
I got some photos of Sooty in the nude.
You haven't.
It's like, ooh. No, that doesn't really work on a podcast. does it? I made a very funny hand gesture.
Without anything on the hand.
Yes.
I think that was the joke. Yeah.
And then finally, there's MCon, which is www.em-con.co.uk, which is at the Capital FM Arena in Nottingham. And there's going to be an absolute cartload of famous people from... There's about 3 different Doctor Who's there. There's loads of people from Game of Thrones, Star Wars, and all that stuff. And practically almost every main Red Dwarf character is going to be there.
When's that?
That is on... Let me just get my bit of paper up that I just threw away, confident that I'd memorised it all. March the 15th. They've got Chloe
Where is
Annette. That's Capital FM Arena, Nottingham.
Okay.
Chloe Annette played the second Kachansky. So obviously
Yeah.
Claire Grogan played the original one. But they've got the Danny John Jules, the cat.
Yeah.
They've got Craig Charles Lister, Chris Barry, Robert Llewellyn.
Yeah.
So they've got all of them there, as well as Hattie Hayridge and
Yeah,
Norman
yeah, yeah.
Lovett, both of them. So they've got both Hollies there as well.
Cool.
But there's a ton of other people. Like James Cosmo was in Game of Thrones, but also in Braveheart and a cartload of different films. So,
We're going to that.
well, there's going to be loads of folks there. When is that? March the 15th?
Yeah.
Do you remember I Love It? The Norman Lovett show that he did on
Yes,
BBC. That
yes.
was fantastic.
I always liked Norman
Yeah.
Lovett. Very gentle kind of
Yeah.
humour.
It was.
So yeah, that sounds like a... I don't know if I'll be allowed out then. When's my baby arriving?
22nd? Or
22nd.
27th or something like that? Yeah, it's
22nd,
ours
yeah.
Is, I think it's 22nd, isn't it? Yours?
Yeah.
Ours is 25th. So.
Ruin everything.
Anyway.
Best day of your life. Anyway, so that's all we've got time for this time. That went well. So, nice to see you all, chaps, and we'll catch you all next week.
Yeah.
To a bit.
Goodbye, listeners.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was ghastly.